frightening rumors of stalking, doxing, and cult-like activities, along with various sinister stories from the mysterious MMO Worlds.com, would surface on the internet about 20 years after the game's initial release. These strange rumors would lead curious players into the deep depths of Worlds.com to figure out what was truly going on behind the scenes. Internet users initially thought this MMO was completely dead and abandoned, but those theories would prove to be gravely wrong. Worlds.com still is an active community. Although small, few players would continue to consistently log on, as if the game was calling for them to keep coming back. In order to find these people and uncover the secrets and cult activity behind Worlds, one must venture deep into the rabbit hole, past the official maps, and what you are meant to see. Worlds is much more than meets the eye. You just have to look a little bit deeper.
Worlds.com builds 3D interactive sites, and its latest endeavor allows visitors to the New York Yankees website to take a virtual tour of the house that Ruth built.
And the virtual environment for the Yankee world is literally giving the Yankee fan the ability to walk into the stadium, which they rarely get to have the opportunity to do, walk across the field and go up to the skybox and go into Monument Park.
Unlike most of the other MMOs that came out at that time, Worlds was simply revolutionary. In April of 1995, the company Worlds Inc. would officially host the website Worlds.com, where users were able to download and play the game. The 3D environment was built upon the idea of human interaction and exploration, where players could do whatever their hearts desire. The gameplay resembles closely to VR chat, where most of the content is up for the players to create in a social environment. The game was a massive success. Players from around the globe would log into Worlds to meet up with friends and explore the vastness of human creation. Celebrities would have a hand in making Worlds mainstream. For example, there was one area that was fully dedicated to David Bowie, where fans would be able to explore and speak with other like-minded individuals. Along with this, Steven Spielberg helped create a 3D fantasy environment named the Starbright World, aimed for severely ill kids to explore and chat with each other.
And Steven Spielberg's Starbright Foundation.
Is the kids, while a prisoner of hospital technology, will be able to be freed under the blue skies of this technology.
Back then, Worlds.com truly was ahead of its time, which gave it a spotlight of its own. Like most games from the 90s, Worlds.com would soon become outdated, and the player base would begin to dwindle. Interest in other games that offered more content would capture the interest of most gamers. And as regular players began to grow older, they would spend more time doing other things outside of the game. As the years kept pushing forward, Worlds would be officially dubbed as a dead game. Having virtually a non-existent player base, it would make sense that Worlds.com would finally pull the plug on the servers to put the game to rest. Surprisingly enough, this never happened. The Worlds servers continue to run to this day. Anyone can download the original game off of their website and dive deep into the official servers that have been running since the 90s. With such a small player base, it is evident that Worlds Inc. was losing money. It simply doesn't make sense to keep these servers up. Tom Kidron, the game's creator, was rumored to have been fronting the server costs himself. But this leads us to an important question. Why would he continue to keep this dead video game alive? There has to be something significant that was going on behind the curtains. Rumors of cult-like activity and users with nefarious intentions on Worlds.com would come to light on 4chan in the midst of the 2010s. Anonymous users would post interesting tidbits about this obscure game, which would garner interest in others. Soon, unofficial search groups would venture deep into Worlds to see how far the rabbit hole goes. One specific player seemed to be an important lead to finding the truth behind the cult. That player's name was Nexialist. This is not all though. A strange figure carrying the name Nexialist has created a lot of commotion due to his creepy appearance and stalking. sometimes in the form of a red animal skull, sometimes in the form of a cloaked figure. He follows the players around silently, and can walk through walls or fly, and can trigger a lot of unusual events in the game. It has been speculated that he's a bot went rogue. Nexialist was brought up in many of the 4chan posts, and was even mentioned in a detailed blog from 2012 that a 4chan user created to document their findings. Nexialist is a regular at Worlds.com and has been trying to pull in V and X to play this game. Nexialist is a successful user that has been able to get a cult following in-game, which is hard to do. He consistently reaches out to dedicated players to join him, as he seems to be called the Key Bearer, and gives some players tours around the game without chatting. It is said that Nexialist randomly wanders worlds, finding unsuspecting new players, exploring the game. Nexialist will stalk their victim from a distance until the time is right to strike. He will approach the player and will send them a private message, asking them if they'd like to see something cool. The player would then be taken on a tour through hellish underground worlds with detailed satanic symbolism and themes. Nexialist would take pleasure in scaring the new players, and was rumored to do so to plant a seed of wonder, to make the player want to see more. Nexialist would then send them hellish audio files of unknown origins. Some anonymous users claim it sounded like animals being burned alive. Various users would share their experiences with 4chan, detailing what happened when they encountered Nexialist. Along with this, Nexialist would also post on 4chan, spreading the word about Worlds.com to get more new users to come and explore. These posts would foster vast amounts of curiosity and interest in the game. Soon, many brave users would venture deep into Worlds to explore and to see if they could find Nexialist or anything interesting. It is said that Nexialist was part of a cult and was using his newly found internet fame and mysterious tactics to recruit new members. Only a few screenshots remained of what some users experienced in their encounter with Nexialist, showing us a glimpse of the deeper parts of Worlds.com. While venturing onto the Worlds website, users are greeted with a funky interface with different information displayed for the game. The Worlds download is available at the top of the page, with some of the computer specification requirements. Scrolling further down will show the character selection options, which you can change once you get in-game. Lastly, at the bottom of the page are a few of the popular realms players can travel to, along with various tips for playing. I decided the only thing to do is to delve deep into the game to see if I could find Nexialist or any cult-like activity. I would be venturing far into the unknown, with no idea what I was getting myself into. But one thing was clear, there were many unanswered questions about this game that I had to uncover. The controls are easy. You use the arrow keys to clumsily move your character around, which proved to be a bit difficult at first, with the game's strange physics and camera acceleration. The rest of the keyboard is used to type in chat. Exploring the game is simple. You can click on the different worlds in the lower right of the screen, which will teleport you to that specific area. There are various portals and secrets you can find around, which will take you to other interesting places. While you explore, you are met with empty corridors, deserted areas, and a silent atmosphere to top it off. It's eerie, knowing that at one point in time, the halls were bustling with players eager to explore this new online world. But now, it's not like that at all. It's a shell of its former self and glory. Worlds is essentially a time capsule from the late 90s, showing how the early internet used to be. Neon colors, old advertisements, and simplistic designs fill the game up to make for some interesting adventures. Worlds.com isn't completely dead. Some of the players that still play mainly would hang out in the main lobby and talk with one another. I knew someone had to know something, as exploring what I could in the base game would prove to show little results. There was only one option left. I had to see if someone could help me. Luckily, I met an experienced player that would bring me closer to finding Nexialist and figuring out what really is going on behind the scenes in Worlds.com. After typing in the chat, I got a private message from a player who was extremely helpful and helped me venture a bit further into Worlds. You see, the base game goes deeper than what is seen on the outside. Past the facade of the main game are the community-driven maps. These areas are designed by the player base, where they can customize the worlds to their liking. The player was generous enough to take me to a hub called Ground Zero, where the regulars seem to hang out. From what I know, the only way to get to that specific hub is to get teleported there. Ground Zero has many different clickable texts on the walls, where users can browse and teleport to a specific location. I was now in the deeper section of Worlds.com, the real part of the game that the regulars know and love. Every week, Thursday and Friday nights, some of the in-game admins host what is called a tour. I decided to partake, as I wanted to speak to some of the locals and get a better grasp of understanding Worlds.com. The tour was interesting. It lasted about an hour as we journeyed to many different areas in the game. When it was going on, the people would come along, would chat with one another, like old friends. Most of what I've seen would be best described as a tight-knit community, many of them saying hello to each other as they would log in and buy when they log out. The vast majority of them seem to have typical lives, with kids and a normal job. It seems most of the community uses Worlds.com as a social outlet to keep up with friends and talk to different people from around the globe, all while having the opportunity to explore the oddities of different 3D worlds. Apparently, according to some of the players during the tour, Nexialist would still hop on frequently. The search was on. I added Nexialist to my friends list, so when he was online, he would pop up on my friends list bar to the right. Now, it was just a waiting game. I would log on every day to see if I could catch him online, mostly with no luck. One night, however, Nexialist was finally online. I quickly sent him a private message and was immediately met with a YouTube link back. What could it be? The sounds of animals being burnt alive? A creepy cultish video? There was only one way to find out. We actually got rickrolled by the infamous Nexialist, the one that supposedly had dark intentions and cultish motives. Even after finding him in game multiple times and politely messaging him. Still, the only response I would get is the link to the rickroll video. It was clear that he wanted nothing to do with me, and I pestered him enough, so I let him be. Maybe he was just a troll after all. If you walk around Ground Zero, you'll see a huge portion of teleports to areas marked as Jimbly's Worlds. Jimbly is another notable player in Worlds, who has a chilling backstory. A lot of Jimbly's actions were extremely strange and resembled closely to cult-like activities. Some would say even more so than Nexialist. As mentioned briefly earlier, a 4chan investigator made some vlogs in 2012, illustrating and documenting their deep dive into the underbelly of Worlds. The investigator, with the alias of George Costanza, had details on Nexialist, but more importantly, for this part of the video, he had extensive information on Jimbly. Just like many others at the time, they were interested in the World's posts on 4chan. But unlike many of the others, they would be actively documenting their findings on their website. The plan was to assimilate themselves with the users on Worlds to see what interesting things they could find. Unbeknownst to the blog owner at the time, this group of interested investigators was in for quite an adventure. This game started as innocent. We had gags while we explored the worlds, skeletons popping out, and finding Pegasus. Things a person could expect playing Roblox, Gmod, or other games where your creations are welcome. But things turned bizarre. Our friend, Grad, as we called him, was showing us these rooms that I mentioned. And eventually, we ended up in a lobby filled with brown doors with red texts on them. These doors had the creator's name and the description of the level/world. This guy Bilbo99 had messed up levels with Easter eggs everywhere, and we praised him for his creepiness. And then I noticed the right corner of my window said erotic and Jimbly. This map was Jimbly's creation. It was a town filled with shops like Starbucks and other modern shops. However, things would take a turn. You see, there was this person that contacted me named Miguelik. Her/his, don't trust the internet, was of a bird or an angel. She claimed that she was new in the world, as I was. But she had been playing this game for a week and already gotten dirty and knew what this shit was really about. To act new is a common trick to bait new players. You see, Jimbly had a network that was serious. How serious? To enter this network circle, you would need to provide mugshots. Yes, mugshots. For example, here's Bilbo99. And there were a total of 30 rooms filled with different mugshots of users. Room 2 was dedicated to Jimbly though. So we scavenged for Miguelik, and we found this. And there were so many pictures of other users that I will include, but one thing I found that was standing out was a user called Calicat. She was in the porn gallery and I compiled this. It seems like someone had stalked her, and the rooms were labeled Calicat. This user must have been a fat cat in the network. As they ventured throughout Jimbly's worlds, they were met with many other photographs of the players. The collection is absolutely massive. I even had the chance to check it out myself when I ventured into worlds. Some pictures were normal selfies of the players, while some, like Calicat or Miguelik, were NSFW. Some pictures even included the players' families, kids, hobbies, and more. The investigators thought this was off-putting. Why would Jimbly make a world like this? There was clearly something strange going on, so they decided to keep collecting information on Jimbly and his mysterious group. The last post was about this weird map, about a man going by the name Jimbly, that was trying to get naked pictures from regulars, old players that are still active. So we stalked him. He hanged out by a beach, but once we would arrive, they would all scatter and disappear. But thankfully, the friend tool and a broken avatar tool could let us teleport us to them while being invisible. But that was for later. Meanwhile, we scavenged the net for Jimbly. We found his site, www.jimblyworlds.com, and where he stored his pictures, only to show a black screen with red text that said, "Darkness." Jimbly's website contained a ton of information on worlds and a gallery of mugshots from the players. Along with this, they found the email that Jimbly used to obtain mugshots. With this email address, the investigators were able to track down who Jimbly was in real life. Jimbly was now publicly exposed. Oh, and at the end of the post, they found another interesting thing about Jimbly. Also, Jimbly is into traps. This can be found in his porn gallery. There's a good chance that those pictures were from some of the players, stacking more evidence that this was some type of fetish or sex cult. The investigators thought it was strange that she would just post her nudes in Jimbly's group for everyone to see, so they did a little bit of digging. Miguelik's nudes that can be found in another post seemed too good to be true. Her head was cropped out with the body of a young woman, whilst her mugshot shows an older woman, in her 40s, and that picture is really old. What does this leave us with? She could have faked them because she doesn't want to show her real body. Or a man playing as a female doesn't want to get caught. Now after chatting with her, we discovered her real email, miguelik@aol.com. This email, though, is linked to a man called John. It is important to note that Miguelik claimed that he had been playing for a week, but that Facebook photo of his character is from 2009. This man is in his 50s, seems to enjoy massive multiplayer online games, whilst his wife doesn't show any interest of games, and her only activity labeled kids. So yes, Miguelik the bird might be, or is a man posing as a fragile woman while baiting for pictures. Those pictures up there, except for his profile picture, is a year old. The pictures are from an album of his from 2009. And then he used a picture of his wife to verify himself, and thought how cool it would be to send in a fake picture of a pair of porn star tits to make him look like a god in-game. The next few posts contain some of Jimbly's various creations. Notably, Jimbly made a makeshift town, which had a cinema, plenty of shops, apartments, a club, and much more. It is unclear what exactly this area was used for, but it was most likely a meeting and hangout place for this group. All of this is strange. Why would players use their real identities and dox themselves to join an online group? Are the benefits of being in the group worth sending a picture of yourself? Along with this, who knows if the players are sending in their real identities? They could be easily impersonating other people. On top of all this, why was Jimbly collecting photos of players? The whole thing is unsettling. This leaves us with a question. What exactly is going on here? Not only with Jimbly, but with Nexialist as well. Worlds, a dead game, is rumored to be housing satanic cults, mostly known for the strange doings of Nexialist. Although, Jimbly in particular is arguably running an operation that more so resembles cult-like activities. To join his group, you must submit a mugshot, which Jimbly collects and creates libraries displaying their pictures. Jimbly not only collected mugshots, but he also requested crude imagery from his followers as well. What he does with these pictures can only be speculated upon. The chilling part is he's been collecting pictures of players since 2005, so who knows how many mugshots and naked photos he has stored away in various worlds. The part that we may never know is what Jimbly and his trusted followers are doing behind closed doors. There could be some type of sex or fetish cult, or there could even be some type of human trafficking, which could answer the question of why they were collecting vast amounts of information on players. Although, this is just wild speculation, and the possibilities are truly endless. Jimbly's bizarre network is unknown to many outside the Worlds.com community. This gives him more cover from the scrutiny of the real world, being able to hide in the depths of Worlds.com. It's possible that Jimbly still plays Worlds occasionally. The times I went online to explore, I never actually saw him log in. Although, if you join Ground Zero, there'll be an automated chat detailing that if you'd like to add your world to the list of teleports, to contact someone called Sir Gemini or Jimbly. So chances are, even if he doesn't log in often, Jimbly still has his hand in Worlds.com. One of the biggest internet rabbit holes is something called the Cult of Saturn, a supposed cult that began in London, where their followers worship the planet Saturn for a number of reasons. There are files online detailing and documenting a plethora of information regarding the cult. Towards the more recent part of the findings in the files is evidence that the cult has a connection with different activities that were happening on Worlds near 2012. Around the same time, people on 4chan began to make posts about Worlds. It is said that the Cult of Saturn changed the location of their operations to Worlds.com. Nexialist, supposedly, had extra information about this cult, which made users believe he was a member. One user asked Nexialist where they could find White Rabbit, explaining that the user wants to understand more about an unknown and potentially dangerous idea. Nexialist then replied with the exact location in-game where the user must go. Along with this strange encounter, an anonymous user outside of Worlds.com connected some dots in the search for the Cult of Saturn, which led him straight to Nexialist. Have you guys played this weird Worlds game yet? I'm not too familiar with it, but I have a bit of a story to tell about my experience with it. If any of you remember me, you'll know that I nearly went insane on a search for this mysterious book, known as the Book of Key and the Lock, or the Book of Loki, and how it was tied to this weird cult called the Cult of Saturn. They worship a black cube or something. It really freaked me out. This cult has started a few threads here on X that they call Zener threads, where I think they are trying to summon something or tap into the collective consciousness. That's just what I've gleaned from the text associated with these posts. Well, in one of the threads, this cube thing the members were making had a picture of the book and the word Nexialist under it. Curious, I decided to Google the word, and lo and behold, it's a user on the game. There are a few other folks scattered around who are searching for this book with me. They claim that this user seems very familiar with the book. If you are interested in helping me discover a rare and hidden book of the occult that holds the secrets to alchemy, demonology, and the secrets of the universe, then help me on my quest to try and harass this Nexialist player. Find out what he knows. We can't let this opportunity pass us by. If I've piqued your interest but you have no idea what I'm talking about, keep this thread alive. I'll give a more thorough explanation of the book and my troubles that I've had searching for it, along with everything else I know about it. This book has some weird rituals that have been the cause of some big events and could end up causing the big event. Stick around, things are going to get interesting in this thread. This anonymous user was conducting major research on the cult of Saturn to find the mysterious lost book that they worship, called the Book of Key and Lock, also known as the Book of Loki. During his research, he stumbled across worlds.com while looking up information on the word Nexialist, which was written in texts associated with the book. This is interesting because of the many stories of other users having strange encounters with Nexialist. Along with this, in the blog that described Nexialist at the beginning of the video, he was dubbed the Keybearer by the community. Once you get information from the Keybearer, you will learn the secrets of the cult of Saturn. Eudoxia Mysteries has a detailed video on the cult of Saturn, and it is worth checking out if this topic interests you. The link will be in the description of this video. In his video, he ends up speaking to a few members he found on worlds.com that were supposedly in the cult. They didn't have much information, but it's relatively safe to say that some strange cult was lingering in worlds.com at one point in time. Nexialist is a key player to figure out what was really going on. He probably holds information that is needed to piece all of this together. If Nexialist was truly in the cult of Saturn, it would make sense that he was recruiting members to join the cult, acting as a base representative that would be the gateway for users to enter. He would also use 4chan to keep a steady flow of players entering worlds to become ingrained in the cult from sheer curiosity. The only thing is though, he would be the one to reach out to you. There would be no reaching out to him. Although, again, this is just wild speculation. There's no concrete proof that Nexialist was part of this cult. Many players speak highly of Nex and describe him as a normal guy. They claim that most of the strange activity he was behind is just trolling, and apparently he doesn't even troll players anymore. Well, I guess that's not 100% true, because of the link to the Rickroll you get when you message him. But to be honest, it really does show his trolling side. Jimbly, on the other hand, is extremely strange. With a huge collection of mugshots of different players, with some being explicit content, he could be running some sort of fetish group or an online sexual cult. With the strange area he made and their secretive meetings, Jimbly is another unknown phenomenon that is a small piece to the puzzle on worlds.com. But what about one of the questions that we came across at the start of this video? Why are the world servers still running? Well, depending on how you view things, the answer to that question is much less sinister than you might think. Tom Kidron, the creator, was using his patents on worlds.com. He would continuously fight in court against different gaming companies, creating many of these lawsuits targeting games that vaguely resemble Worlds. He would collect a hearty amount of money every year, and keeping worlds.com alive was a small price to pay to strengthen his case. So chances are, the Worlds servers will keep going until Tom decides to stop these lawsuits. The aspect that is the most terrifying with Worlds is the unknown. When you log in, you are met with fragments of the past, venturing down empty corridors until you find a secret area that leads you deeper into the game. Deeper and deeper into Worlds is the only way forward. The question is, how deep does Worlds go? Are there more low-profile cults within Worlds.com that can only be found if you venture deep enough? There's only one way to find out. I'd just like to say that the users I met in Worlds.com are some of the nicest I've talked to on the internet. Please don't go on there to harass anyone. Although, I do encourage you to download the game to explore. Who knows what you'll be able to find. Anyways, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you for watching.